And I said, what about breakfast at Fishing? She said, I think I remember having. And I said, I think I kind of liked it. And I said, well, that's one thing. We got breakfast at Fishinese. Mike Fisher cooking in the kitchen in Frisco, home of the Dallas Cowboys. Give me 15 minutes and I will give you the Cowboys world. We will do this item by item. We will do this with the help of your questions, contributions, and criticisms. And of course, if after this 15 minutes you say, hey, that was good. Or during this 15 minutes, you say, hey, I think I'll go to the QR code and get me some junk out of the fishsportsnetwork.com store. Or you say, Mike Fisher is giving away Emmitt Smith's jersey and Emmitt autographed it for the Fish Report. And when we get to 50,000 subscribers, you're going to win it. You, somebody, you. Yes. All yes. So hit the like button and beat the YouTube algorithms. That tells Cowboy Nation that we're here. Let's get to 100 likes today, if we please. And then obviously, again, please do subscribe. You can also join the Uncle Fish Premium Club as well. Jim Laws and the gang will show you how. On the agenda today, among many other things, as we head to the Star here shortly, item, the trade-up plan. And we'll have full details on that. Dak on my whole body. Debo Light? And this is a very intriguing concept that we will break down for you. Dak on Kelvin Joseph. And we'll do that story this morning for you from the Star. Julio Jones? Now, this wasn't my idea. So don't blame me. But we will address it today. And a premium player who might be off the Cowboys board. And we'll bring you the exclusive on that over the course of the day. Let's spend a little time now on the idea of the trade-up plan concept. And the biggest thing you've got to do here is decide where the line of demarcation is on these offensive linemen. Now, we can do the same exercise with wide receiver. And I think most of us now have come to the conclusion that if things went the way the Cowboys would want them to go, that we get to 24 and it comes down to offensive line and wide receiver. Abdab Dad wants to know about that secret weapon quarterback. If you can't find the article, go to Google and find cowboyssi.com. Just go to Google and type in secret weapon QB Cowboys SI Fisher or something like that, and it'll come up. We also did the video on that, so you can search it here too. EJ Perry is the prospect's name. If this goes down as a prediction, I find it to be a little bit shocking. It is NFL.com that's making the prediction in a mock draft of sorts. And I'll tell you why, and you can tell me your thoughts on this as well. It was cowboyssi.com, of course, us, the Fish Report, that quizzed Jerry Jones the other day about the idea of trading up. And even though Jerry, his answer was a convoluted word salad that included how they moved up for Travis Frederick, when that's exactly not exactly what happened, his point was still made that philosophically, he still believes in move up, roll the dice, get a great player. And you know by now, philosophically, I disagree with that. I think history proves that to be the wrong way to go. Certainly Cowboy history does. Tony Dorsett aside. And I think I'd rather just have more darts. But Jerry said it, and it qualifies as a revelation. And there's reason for us to therefore follow up on that. It is the truth, even though it was buried in Jerryisms, and it requires translating Jerry, just like the Debo story did the other day. Man, oh man, the people that took Stevens' Debo comments and turned them into, well, he was not saying no. Well, yes, he was. if you understand how to speak and how to translate Jerry and Jonesian. There are some signs that the Northern Iowa offensive lineman, Trevor Penning, might qualify as the give up darts level talent. Mock draft exercise at NFL.com. Here's how they did it. Now, I haven't checked this against the trade value chart. I assume this to be right. I assume it to be a fit, in other words. Cowboys would trade a 4th and a 5th, numbers 129 and 178, in order to jump up just a few spots from 21 to 24. Either if one of you guys wants to do it or I'll do it, grab your trade value chart and see if that matches. I'm working on the assumption that it matches fine. If it doesn't, I'm going to really blow NFL.com out of the water. But for the purpose of this conversation right now, let's say it looks fine. To jump from 24 to 21. So I'm giving up a 4th and a 5th. Not that those are gold, but they are darts to move up 3 spots. Jose Christian, trade value is out of the window for this draft. You're absolutely wrong. Have no idea what you're talking about, Jose. You do a lot of talking on here, and I appreciate you being here, but where'd you pull that out of your purse? That's absolutely false. The trade value chart is the trade value chart, and it always is, and it always shall be. The trade value chart, and it's morphed over the years since Jimmy Fake invented it. Mike McCoy, the Cowboys staff, actually invented it and handed the paperwork to Jimmy, and then Jimmy took credit for it, is money. It's very simple. How many quarters equal $1? And Jose Christian, that's never going to go out of style. There might be some point when somebody goes, boy, these quarters have, if we melt these quarters down, they're more valuable than if we burn this dollar. But otherwise, 4 quarters equals $1. Period. Jose says, you don't know, you'll pull up the 2013 draft. The 2013 draft still had the same trade value chart as today. And unless the rules change drastically in compensation or whatever, the 2022 trade value chart, Jose, what are you talking about? 4 quarters equals $1. And you're trying to argue against it? I'll stop with you, Jose. I think you're just trying to get an old man's goat. And by God, you've done it again. Get him, Charlie. I don't know if Jose understands football, but he obviously doesn't understand money. 4 quarters equals $1. Based on what NFL.com is saying, pending me checking it, pick number 24 plus pick number 121 plus pick number 178 equals pick number 21. Now, again, I don't like the idea, but what if you're rounding towards 17, 18, and you love Trevor Penning, and you think that New England at 21 is going to draft Trevor Penning. Now, my answer is the difference between Trevor Penning and Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green so great that I'm going to give up a 4th and a 5th, a 4 and a 5? I'm saying it's not. So I go to my man, Dane Brugler. So Dane has, in his latest mock, and Dane, of course, as not only a friend of the show, but also a guy who knows his draft and knows his Cowboys. So he says that Penning is ranked ahead of the physical Kenyon Green and the athletic Zion Johnson. Kenyon Green, Texas A&M. Zion Johnson, Boston College. We know the Cowboys like all 3 of those players. Tony, as I said, Tony Peters, the trade value chart can morph based on rules changes, but the trade value chart, each team this year has the trade value chart, and it's largely the same with all the teams, so they can speak the same language. That will never change. And the reason that Mike McCoy of the Cowboys staff came up with this is because before he did this in the early 90s, there was no formula. So nobody really knew. You could one year, if you want to see helter skelter on trade value, go look before 1990. And that's when you'll see sometimes a first round is worth 2 2s. Sometimes a first rounder is worth this. Sometimes, because people were just making it up until Mike McCoy did 20 years of study and came up with a formula. And the essence of that formula from 1990, the essence of it remains in place, even if the trade value chart morphs. So for instance, here's a morph. A game is 4 quarters. Well, unless it goes to overtime. So there's some morphing, but a game is still 4 quarters. It's not that hard to figure out, guys. Why don't... Listen, I ask that you bring something of intellect to the table, and it's all I ask. Well, and that you subscribe. If we can't agree that 4 quarters equals $1, then you aren't smart enough to be here, and you are welcome to de-invite yourself. We know that the Cowboys have revealingly admitted wide receiver and offensive linemen. Doesn't lock them into it, but they've been pretty open about it, for better or for worse. We know that, thanks to Dane, we're going to put Penning above Johnson and above Green. But how much above? Okay, so here's Dane's recent mock draft. He's got that trio going at number 17, Penning to the Chargers, Johnson to Dallas at 24, Green to Tennessee at 26. Now, if you play fantasy football, you understand the concept of tiers. Lone Star, thanks you for noting. Straight dope, no bullshit. I just got to learn to quit wrestling with the trolls. So those are, the question is there a tier between those guys? Because that's pretty bunchy. 17, 24, 26 is pretty bunchy. So whether or not we agree with the Cowboys doing this, I don't think there's much disagreement that the Cowboys are considering this. And the fulcrum here, there's really 2 fulcrums. One, how much better is Penning than the other 2? So much better that you give a 4 and a 5? And 2 is philosophically, is a 4 and a 5 sacrifice to move up 4 spots ever really a good idea? Broken Halo, the trade chart is a guide, not an absolute. Bingo. I told you somebody in here was smart besides me. Thank you, Broken Halo. The trade chart does not demand that you give up this for that. You can try to get, in fact, as you and the Eagles look at the trade value chart talking, and you both are, and they're similar charts, obviously you're trying to win the trade. Could you get, listen, I go back to fantasy football all the time because I assume most of us play it. There's 3 fun parts about fantasy football, and the number 3 one might only be the actual games. The draft is number 2, and for me, trades are the most fun of all in fantasy football because trades are how you, to me, in fantasy football, and obviously to some degree in real sports too, is how you turn a paperclip into a house. So Broken Halo, now we got somebody talking. Can I get somebody to give me 5 quarters for $1? In that case, I win the trade. Can I get somebody to give me 4 quarters and a nickel for $1? I win the trade. So as Russell Berry says, it's a guide. You're not obliged. There's not a law that says, I want to trade you $1. Okay, that automatically costs 4 quarters. And if you're not smart enough to get that, then please get out of my way. Brugler suggests that Penning is a foundational piece. Now, this is in his projection that he goes to the Chargers, who can also play guard, which matters, because I'm not in favor. Tags touching. I'm not in favor of taking a tackle. Tags touching. I need a guard as long as he's still BAA. And Dane says that Penning with the Chargers, and therefore obviously with the Cowboys too, would compete for the starting job from day one. That's great. Except while Penning would compete for the starting job from day one, maybe at tackle, right tackle with Terrence Steele. Wouldn't Johnson more than compete for the starting guard job? Johnson wouldn't compete for the starting guard job. On paper, he'd win it. Green wouldn't come here and compete for the left guard job. He would, on paper, win it. So while we're praising Penning for being a guy who will compete for a job, that doesn't make him better than Zion or Kenyon, because those guys would win the job. Yes, you got to go through the injury evaluations of these guys, Kenyon Green included. Yes, you've got to measure the athleticism of Zion versus the tough guy of Green. And then you got to look at Penning, who might have both. Might be a combination of both. But for now, anyway, and we'll keep you posted on this from Inside the Star all week long. Clearly, the best fit for the idea is a philosophical one for now. History be damned. And philosophically, Jerry Jones and the Cowboys are clearly willing to trade up for a guy viewed as just a little bit more special. So they move up just a little bit, and they give up what they hope in a 4 and a 5 is just a little bit. Next, Dak Prescott working on my whole body. And we talked about this a little bit over the weekend. This is overall good news. He did say when he wakes up on cold mornings, he can feel a little bit. So welcome to being 28 and up, old timer. Item. Debo Light. So Stephen goes on 105.3 The Fan and basically says, well, you know, regarding Debo, well, you know, it's a 24/7 business and we're always looking to get better. And I look at Pro Football Talk, Florio the next day is writing as if the Cowboys are trading for Debo. That's not at all what Stephen said. He said quite the opposite. And we did the video call, and we called it By Rote or About Debo. It's by rote. Stephen says these things by rote. He's just reading them off a teleprompter. The Cowboys have expressed inside the building, expressed no interest at this time in trading for Debo Samuel. If that changes, you, Robert Z, Arkansas Dave, Chris Graham, Daniel Balboa, will be the third to know. Marsha will be second. Item. Good morning, Marsha, by the way. Dak Prescott is speaking out on Kelvin Joseph. I hope you like what he says, and I hope you get what he says. And coming up before the noon hour today, I will break that down for you. So stay tuned to the channel here. Item. Julio Jones. Our friend John Machota at The Athletic basically made a list of 15, and he didn't say the Cowboys are going to get Julio Jones. That also is being misinterpreted. John, that's not the game he plays. He simply said, here's 15 interesting names that are still on the shelf. And man, Julio Jones is absolutely an interesting name. 7-time Pro Bowler. Tennessee goes and steals him from Atlanta. But maybe the best player in Atlanta Falcons history. He's up there with, it's not a real long list, but Matt Ryan, Jesse Tuggle, Deion Sanders for a minute, Claude Humphrey. Look at me, Falcons historian. He's 33. He played 10 games last year. And I'm trying to remember, but he caught like 35 balls and 1 touchdown. No. We've mentioned T.Y. Hilton, and the Cowboys have too. So we get past the draft and we start getting into the end of spring, we start getting into summer, and somebody gets hurt, then we can review the review. But I'm trying to get younger and faster, and Julio Jones does not do that for me. And finally this morning, if a player has a history of off-field problems, let's say for the sake of this conversation, multiple accusations of domestic violence, should an NFL team automatically take him off their board? Should an NFL team go case by case? Should an NFL team like the Dallas Cowboys look at the landscape as they once did in overreacting to the Michael Irvin problem and thereby not drafting Randy Moss? Mistake. Is it okay if a team looks at the landscape and says, this month alone, we dealt with a former player who we drafted being arrested on a domestic violence charge, Damian Wilson. We dealt with Randy Gregory not wanting to sign a contract because it had a drug clause in it. And we went through Kelvin Joseph being questioned in a drive-by murder investigation. Maybe this isn't the year to take a behavioral risk. Think about that, and we'll talk about that later. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for all the likes. Spread the word in Cowboys Nation. We are partying on Friday night from the Maverick Bar, 1616 Hebron. It will be a draft party. And yeah, a couple of our Cowboy old friends have told us they're going to show up and hang out with us. We'll do the show live at 6. We'll be giving away all kinds of stuff, and we are giving away beer. And I know you can't turn that down. 8 Beer, Troy Aikman's Beer, is sponsoring the party. That's reason enough for you to show up. No, I don't think Troy's showing up, but you're showing up. And on Wednesday, I'm going to take a head count. So start making plans. Yes, it's family friendly. And we're going to have a ball starting. I'll probably get there at 5:15, get set up for the show, and we'll have the draft. We'll have the show, and we'll have live music, and it'll be a gas. So join us Friday night at the Maverick Bar, 1616 Hebron. Yes, I own it. It's 16 minutes from anywhere. In fact, it's like 10 minutes from the Star. So we'll see you a little bit later in the morning with more conversation on the subjects of off the board behavioral, Debo Light, Dak on Kelvin, and much more. And then we'll see you Friday night too. Fish out.